Hello, I'm Natasha Chilingarian.
And I'm Michael Ogden. This is Shared Accounts with CU Times. We're already in July, so in honor of this hot pod summer, we've written some haikus for yous. Okay, here's my first one. And then, Natasha, you're coming in too. I'm not forgetting you here. Okay,
Okay.
first one. July. It is hot. Those damn fireworks. Dogs hate. Christmas promos start. See? That was terrible.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Let's see. What else you got?
Okay, here's my second one. Loudest month, July. Flies on potato salad. Sunburned. I am sick. I like that one better.
Jeez.
It's
Yeah. It makes you
gross,
sound,
but
you sound miserable. I feel bad for you
you
that we're
know,
heading into summer.
that's my childhood right
Yeah.
there, basically in a
Okay.
haiku.
Okay.
Okay,
Well,
you have one, right?
I do. I do. Okay. Let me read this. So
Okay,
this kind of summarizes how the summer has gone for me so far, as well as
okay.
what's to come. Okay. Bug bites are itching. Heat is rising. No AC. I'm stuck to my chair. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what
Ah,
happens.
you win. You win the
Oh,
haiku.
thank you.
I really like that. Thanks for playing and welcome to Shared Accounts with CU Times. Coming up, we're speaking with Dietrich Kuhlmann, President and CEO of the nation's largest credit union, Navy Federal. He officially took over the helm from the now retired Navy Federal CEO, Mary McDuffie, on March 1st of this year, and we're getting to learn all about his strategic priorities for this gigantic credit union, including his thoughts on advocacy at Navy Federal's overseas military banking program, which has been attracting some attention lately. This interview has been in the works for a while, thanks to Natasha, and we were very excited to finally get penciled into his very busy calendar. Stay tuned for that conversation. First up, let's take a break from this sweaty week. Check in with Natasha Hayen.
Hey, Em. Happy summer.
Happy summer, hot pod summer.
I like that hot pod summer.
I just thought of it. So let's get right to it because we do have a very important conversation with Dietrich coming up
Absolutely.
here in a minute. What did you watch this past week?
Well, so I didn't watch so much TV. I did a lot of watching of nature, if I'm honest. I spent the whole
Oh,
weekend, yeah, in Big Bear Lake. So it's up here on the mountain here in Southern California's San Bernardino Mountains. And my mom was actually visiting as well. And we
okay.
were in town for this activity called Outdoor Adventure Days. And its focus is on this bald eagle couple, which I've brought
Mm-hmm.
this up many times.
Yeah,
They're
yeah,
this bald eagle couple, there's a live cam, they had 3 eggs. The eggs never hatched, unfortunately, but they gained this big cult following. So
yeah.
this was a weekend for all of the fans to come gather in real life and celebrate Jackie and Shadow. And so
Okay.
I went on a boat tour. Unfortunately, didn't get a close-up view of these eagles, but I
Oh,
did find out where the nest is exactly. So
mhm.
I know now I can go back, like, when they're back on the nest, and I can use my binoculars and go zoom in.
Okay.
Right now, it's, like, the off season for them, so they're just
Yeah,
flying around. They don't really spend much time at the nest.
sure.
Yeah, I definitely took a break from TV, which was a healthy thing to do once in a while and
Yeah, of course.
good for your mental health, apparently.
I filled that gap for you. I watched so much stuff. It's been
Okay, good to
storming
hear.
a lot.
You were escaping the sun and the flies, right?
Well, and then also in between huge thunderstorms.
Oh, yikes.
But
Okay.
I watched just very quickly a movie I'd never seen. I'd forgotten all about it. It was a movie called Manhunter, directed by
Huh.
Michael Mann. It was back in 1986. It's literally, well, kind of literally, a prequel to Silence of the Lambs.
Oh,
So
wow,
this was
okay,
made before that, and it started off great, and it
okay.
ended just not great. But it was a fun watch. I gave it 2.5 stars. Here's my review of it. Start strong, ends with short shorts and hairless legs.
Okay, that's very specific.
That's my review.
Well, you've got quite the catalog of horror. You're kind of the
It
obscure
was
horror buff of our
it was
staff.
a thriller. I wouldn't say it
It
was
was more of a
horror.
thriller? Okay.
This was kind of a thriller.
Silence of the Lambs, I mean, if that's not a horror, I don't know what your
Sure, you're
qualification for
right.
horror is, but
You're right.
interesting, okay. Alright, well, like you said, we got a big conversation to get to. It was a much anticipated interview with Dietrich Kuhlmann, the new CEO of Navy Federal. We hit on a few big topics, including the overseas military banking program. He
Mhm.
clears up a few questions that have come up concerning that program and insurance.
Mhm.
So, yeah, that was quite enlightening. He also gives us a preview of a very exciting trip over to Europe he has coming up later in July. We have all of that coming up next.
Hey, listeners, we are a bunch of credit union data nerds here at CU Times. And if you would like to be one of those and be smarter about what's happening in the industry, check out our executive briefing for subscribers only, delivered right to your inbox. Because we don't put it online, the executive briefing dissects one issue each month into a comprehensive package with graphics, editorial context, interviews, and more, all in one email for subscribers only. Want to subscribe? Go to cutimes.com/subscribe. That is cutimes.com/subscribe for the executive briefing.
Joining us in the virtual studio today is Dietrich Kuhlmann, President CEO of Navy Federal Credit Union. Dietrich, welcome to the show. It's an honor to have you.
Well, it's an honor to be here. Thanks so much, Natasha.
We're just happy to be able to get some time with you. So, to start things off here for our listeners, can you just kind of give us some background on yourself? So, could you share a few of the highlights of your professional background, both in financial services and also with the U.S. Navy? And then, what ultimately brought you to Navy Federal Credit Union when you first joined the organization?
It's a long story in the making, but we'll run through it fairly quickly. Followed my father's footsteps and entered the Naval Academy back in 1979, which, by the way, during the first week, I was marched down and told, go open a checking account at Navy Federal so we can put your pay in there. And
Oh,
All right.
so I became a member of the Navy and Navy Federal simultaneously.
great.
So I served after graduation for 35 years. My primary specialty was submarines, but the Navy, unlike other services, does not have in their officer corps people who are specifically brought up to do finance. So after about the first 7 or 8 years in the Navy, focused mostly on submarines, I went to a short tour in the Pentagon in finance and then developed that as a subspecialty by going and doing 6 more tours in the Pentagon in finance. So I do my sea tours on submarines and short tours in finance. Once you get that specialty, there aren't that many of us.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, a specialty of submarines and finance. I know nobody except you.
Yeah, it surprises people. It's like, how are those two going together? I
Right.
could have been a surface guy in finance too.
Sure.
At one point in the Navy, as an officer, you figure out that what it's all about is command. And so I had an opportunity to command 2 different submarines at sea. And fun fact about that is that the first command was the USS Michigan when I was a commander in '05, and the
Mhm.
second command was the USS Michigan when I was a captain in '06. But in between those 2 command assignments, the submarine went through a 3.5 year, $2 to $3 billion modification from an SSBN with ballistic missiles to an SSGN. Think like a revolver with 7 instead of 6 bullets, and those bullets were Tomahawks. Each missile tube could hold 7, and we did about 20 missile tubes with Tomahawks, and then built some lock-in, lock-out chamber for special forces. And so that was the mission of the second one. I thought I was done, but turns out the Navy had other plans, and I
Okay.
was selected to be an admiral. And during one of my financial tours in the Pentagon while an admiral, I was invited to be a volunteer on the board of Navy Federal
Yeah.
based on my finance background. So that was 2010 to 2012, and that was my beginning of an in-depth understanding of how Navy Federal worked. And from that time on, I was only able to do that for 2 years, and then I transferred. And by the time I had transferred back to the Pentagon, the ability for admirals and generals to be on the board had been taken away by Congress. So I wasn't able to rejoin the board. But I did know that when all was said and done, Navy Federal is a fantastic organization and one that I would want to be associated with.
Well, and you are. So look at you.
There you
You
go.
know,
I know. In the best possible way.
Right.
exactly. So can I ask, since you've been on, what's it been like for you having the responsibility of leading the largest credit union?
Well, it certainly is humbling. It's interesting because there's very much a family type culture among our 24,000 employees. I started off in the credit union running our branch operations network. I remember in my first 8 months, I think I went out and visited 120 different branches. Our
Mm,
branches have 10 to 12, 15. Some of the bigger ones have 20. Some of the smaller ones have 5. But
yeah.
every one of those is a little family. So that's kind of stuck with me, I guess, throughout.
Hmm.
Hmm.
In fact, at the end of this week, I'm going to go visit some branches with our chief operating officer. That always keeps you very grounded
Yeah.
in who we are and who we serve. And in fact, I'd say a unifying theme between both my naval service and my time here at Navy Federal is the word service, the privilege to serve our military veterans and their families. What you do is you become more and more senior in the military, and our members are the mission. That's certainly what we live for here.
And what would you say are some of the strategic priorities you're focusing in on in your first few years here as CEO? Taking over from Mary McDuffie. Just curious, were there strategic priorities she had that you're doing a continuation of? Are you introducing anything new? What are the priorities you have with the idea, I suppose, of achieving growth of the credit union?
We had a strategy, and when I came in 2019, we were in the initial development of it under Mary's leadership. And it was, in theory, a 5 year strategy, but it is still ongoing.
Mm,
And I would say the genius of the strategy is we started with data. So we now have built a basically cutting edge data infrastructure in the cloud. And I would say about 85 to 90% of all our data is up there. And by the beginning of 2025, we'll have largely finished that. We have just started the transition, and this was always part of the strategy, to move our core to the cloud, as well as about 80% of all our applications and business to the cloud. And so the strategy we developed back in 2019 had three main pillars, one being member centric, that's who we are. And I'll get back to that one because that's really
okay.
one of the things we're going to work most on in what I'm actually calling a strategy refresh. Number
Okay.
two is employee powered. You can only give good service. We believe we win on service. That's our primary differentiator. And to give good service, you need to take care of your teams
Mm.
because they're the ones that are in contact with your members and taking care of them. And then the last was the scalable and flexible, and that's the technology piece of it that we've been working on and will continue to work on. We've probably got 3 to 4 more years to go on just the IT.
It sounds like we'll be watching for that 2025 deadline, is what you're shooting for?
Yeah, I think 2025 will be a big year.
Yeah.
This will be a big year. We're making progress. We're going to actually change our mobile app this year
Ooh.
to upgrade it. So we just changed the online one. Now we're changing the mobile one. So that'll be a big move. We're doing that this year. We're changing our membership application. So it's a phased rollout, and
Mm.
it'll go on through probably 27, 28 before we're
Wow.
done with most of the major moves. But I think in these day and age, you're probably never done with technology.
No, absolutely not.
Right.
But
No.
getting back to Natasha's question about what my changes are being, we're doing a strategy refresh because I think those three pillars are still the right one. But on the member centric piece of it in particular, we're really breaking our addressable membership, which as we got into this process and really evaluated, about 184 million Americans can be members of Navy Federal.
Mm.
We have 13.6, so we are a big credit union, but we can certainly grow a lot more. And then really breaking down, okay, where do we really think we have the right to win and where do we want to focus is what's coming out of this new strategy. And frankly, we've been a little bit focused there, but this is where we're really going to target. And it's probably going to be veterans, including retirees, because there's just some really key financial both challenges and opportunities in that veteran community that we'd love to be able to help those who serve.
Hmm.
Right, absolutely. And so this kind of goes along with that, talking about helping, your members out. What role would you say financial well-being plays in your member service and experience strategy? Can you talk a little bit about some of the ways the credit union is helping to improve members' financial lives, especially for those service members?
I would say, if you want to know what my passion is, what our passion is here, it is very much how to really help create financial opportunities for our members and really help them advance their financial lives. One of the things we do is we work very hard anytime there's an opportunity to get on a base. Turns out you don't make a lot of money operating a branch on a base. But you do get not only the right, but it's written into the operating agreement that you're required to provide financial education on that base.
Mhm.
And that
Sure.
we think is really our sweet spot. That financial education is such an important aspect. And frankly, there's not many places in life anymore that people are getting that kind of financial education.
Yeah.
Right.
Unfortunately, a lot of people are relying on social media, which isn't a great source often for getting good financial advice. So the ability to do that and any opportunity to do that, I would say that's why I know at some point we'll probably talk about the Overseas Military Bank, but that was another opportunity to provide not only financial services, but financial education. So that's a really key part of what we're doing. It's a big part of this new mobile app. Will be a site called Making Sense that we're making significant improvement to so that our members can increasingly self-serve.
Hmm.
And we've also created recently an Office of Financial Opportunity.
Hmm.
And we've done that to really focus on some of those more disadvantaged communities and see what we can do to create better financial opportunities. I don't know if you're aware, but our membership skews to the lower FICO scores. The average FICO score in the
Mm.
US is about 715. Our average membership FICO score is about 640. So
Oh,
Okay.
we're actually skewing already to a group that really can benefit from creating better financial understanding and financial opportunities.
Right.
you had mentioned, you're heading out to visit more branches and things like that. I wanted to ask about Navy Federal's branch strategy and how you're facing the changes that have been happening with those branches out there.
Sure. I mean, it's certainly been a dynamic time for branches. Of course, when we went through the pandemic, that was a big adjustment that we had to make to be able to operate those branches effectively. For a while there, we were doing all the service curbside, the height of the pandemic.
Oh, wow.
Pre-pandemic, when I was running branch, we were opening about 20 branches a year.
Oh, wow.
During the pandemic and subsequently, that's gotten down to about a handful, maybe 7. So I would say I think I've seen some enough of the impact that's having on our growth, and there are just so many opportunities in areas of the country where we don't really have a branch presence, that we want to get that number back up. I haven't pinned a number down. In 2025, I'm shooting for something closer to 15, but we'll see. We'll see what the right answer is as we continue to work our way through this strategy. But I think that will be a component of it, is to continue to open branches in areas that have a lot of veterans in particular. And we have several areas of the country right now where our branches are frankly almost overrun. Houston is one, and another one's Atlanta. We just have a lot of waiting lines and things we don't like, not being able to deliver quite the speed of service we'd like. So
Hmm.
there are lots of opportunity. I think that's definitely something I've noticed when it comes to branches. There are opportunities. And as I said, and we run a 24/7 contact center. It's all US based. It's the biggest concentration of that is at our largest headquarters, which is down in Pensacola, Florida, holds up to 10,000 folks. And so that's another key aspect of our service.
Very good.
Right. Well, it's an interesting topic. I mean, the branch certainly hasn't disappeared as a result of the pandemic, which was something we were questioning, but it sounds like it's a matter of getting them in where it's going to make the biggest impact and then serving them the way they want to be served, since people interact differently, I think, with branches and with, what they do in person versus online. So,
Yeah, there's an interesting aspect of that, Natasha, that we've noted, and what we call it the halo effect, which is
hmm,
that when you start to put some branches in the area, and you got to get a little bit of concentration, you need 3 or 4 or so in a given area. What we find is we start to see a 30% growth in purely digital members. So they never go into the
hmm,
branch, but just having the branch presence has a halo effect of growing digital membership as well.
right. That is interesting. So you think they're just seeing the name, the sign up there, and it kind of increases the brand presence.
Brand presence and just the confidence that, okay, if I ever really need to get to a human being, which is sort of one of the principles we champion in our service provision, which is you will always have access to a human being. If you call us, it's not 10 or 12 steps before you can talk to somebody. It's no more than 1 or 2.
They like to know it's at least an option, right?
There you go.
Okay, well, let's go ahead and move on. So we really wanted to talk to you about the new overseas military banking program, which is obviously it's attracted quite a bit of attention in the media. It's brought up a few questions. So this Department of Defense program serves military men and women stationed around the globe. It was a need after Bank of America decided to cut ties. So can you tell us a little bit about why Navy Federal decided to take this on? What's the background and the purpose of why you decided to pursue this?
I certainly can. But before I do that, I would like to give a shout out to Bank of America. They ran the program for 25 years. And it's not a program that, frankly, makes a lot of money. The problem with a cost plus contract with DoD is they have to approve every cost, and they don't.
Yeah.
So I think it was very hard for a for-profit company to justify. But as a not-for-profit credit union, this is right in the sweet spot of our mission. And this is helping servicemen and their families in challenging situations as you move overseas and go into a kind of a different financial world, to be able to adjust and just be able to do things like pay your rent and pay your utilities usually has to be done in the local currency. And utilities in particular have to be done with an automated pay system.
Okay.
So Community Bank, which is the name of the banks that the DoD program operates, that we operate on behalf of the DoD, provides that capability. And additionally, it also provides about $1 billion a year in just cash flow for commissaries, for exchanges, for wives clubs and chiefs messes. It really just helps the infrastructure operate. There are actually some operational funds for military operations that flow through there. So it was tied to the core of our mission of being the premier financial institution for the military and their families. And so when nobody else would bid, and we learned of that, we ended up submitting a bid. Anybody else could have, but we're the ones who did.
Can I ask a follow-up to that? There's been an issue about being insured and using private insurance or NCUA and all of that. Where does that situation sit at the moment?
So we were hoping to be able to make some changes to make it clear. We think it's interesting. We don't operate the community bank as a credit union. The requirement is you're a fiscal agent of the Treasury,
Okay.
which every credit union can be. And that's the requirement for us to be able to operate that. And we believe that acting as a fiscal agent of the Treasury, the share insurance could be given to the program's members. Our regulator doesn't agree, so they're not going to allow it. So we were trying to get the law changed. That was causing some angst within the credit union industry, and we've got other things that are important. I think it's not the best use of the taxpayers' money. It would be much less expensive for the taxpayer if we were able to use the share insurance fund, but we're sort of at a standstill on that today.
Okay.
So we have private insurance, same amount, the full $250,000. It just costs the program more than what it would cost if it was funded through the NCUA.
Okay. I appreciate you answering that because we had a lot of questions about that. And I appreciate the laughing too, because we've been laughing. So it's not a done deal, or is it a done deal now? Or are the negotiations still going on?
Frankly, in my opinion, this is a fight for DFAS and DoD to fight.
Yeah.
It's a cost that the program is having to bear. And it would certainly be less expensive if the law was changed, but that does not look like that's going to happen anytime soon.
Okay. Thanks for answering again.
Yeah, thanks for that, Dietrich. All right, so final question here before we move on to part 2 of our interview. This is more of a fun one, I think. How would you describe just your leadership style, just being in different leadership roles over the years? And are there any particular lessons you've learned throughout your career on how to improve as a leader?
My leadership style, I sort of mentioned this before. I've been blessed to be surrounded by phenomenally talented people who show up at work every single day trying to do their very best as they see it. And part of my role as CEO is certainly to help so that we're all aligned in seeing it the same way, because people want to do well. And so let's all do well on the same things and work together. So I've sort of articulated part of my leadership styles here is working to be aligned, connected, and empowered. So I love the alignment piece because that's critically important. And the team has really rallied behind that and worked very hard to set very clear priorities so we know exactly how to get through these strategic efforts that we're working on, as well as continue to run the business day to day. The connected piece touches on a popular topic, which is we're hybrid. While we do have a segment of remote workforce that's not our preferred, we do it when we have to just to get the skill. And hybrid for us means for the frontline folks, you need to be in one of our headquarters buildings at least 2 days a week. As you get more senior, you're expected to be in between 3 and 4 days. And we think that's just key to continue to maintain the culture of the organization.
Yeah.
Right.
And then the empowered piece is just making sure that our front lines and middle management folks feel that they truly are empowered to make a difference for each other and certainly for our members. So One of the things that I think we have a real opportunity here as the largest credit union is to do more for the credit union industry writ large, get a lot more engaged. So I'm making it a personal effort to try and get to know the other CEOs better and to see where we might be able to help some of the smaller credit unions who, with this attack on fees and I think you're familiar with, certainly all the federal unions have their interest rate capped, are going to have a real struggle with being able to manage margins and stay afloat, frankly. There's a prediction that we're going to lose anywhere from 1,500 to 2,000 credit unions over the next 3 to 5 years. So I think there are things we can do to try and help others out, given that we can scale a little more readily than some.
And I like the piece you spoke about earlier, visiting all the branches and kind of being accessible and developing the relationship. So,
yeah, from the Navy days, we call that being a deck plate, leading at the deck plate level. And that's certainly been my want, always try and get out there to the front lines.
Yeah.
okay, now let's go ahead and move on to part two of our interview. This is the fun part because it is all about you. So, first, Dietrich, let's go back to your pre Navy Federal Credit Union days when you first served in the U.S. Navy. I know you mentioned earlier you followed in your father's footsteps for enlisting, but I was going to ask you what inspired you to enter the military in the first place. Is there anything else besides following in dad's footsteps that was kind of pulling you in to the service?
Sure, the Naval Academy is a great school. It's a great education. And so I thought I would give that a start. I thought I knew what I wanted to do. As life often happens, I got thrown some curves. I wanted to enter to fly, and then my eyes went bad. So that's how I actually ended up shifting over. For my second year, I got a chance to spend a week on a submarine. And I was so phenomenally impressed by the quality of the enlisted people on that submarine that I said, you know what, I could do this. And so I finished out my time there and entered submarine. But it was one of the schools I applied to. I got accepted. The other was Berkeley, and they didn't accept me. So there you go.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
Made the choice for you.
So that helped. Well, I've also always been guided by my faith. Very blessed and thankful that so many things have turned out this way. Like I said, I haven't always planned things to turn out this way, but this is how it's all worked out. So I'm very blessed.
So, like my sons, when they were really little in the bathtub, your focus in the military became submarines. What is kind of a fun fact about sub travel or something the average people wouldn't know about submarines?
Sure. I can't miss an opportunity to plug just how vital submarines are to our national security, because they really are.
Okay.
They're amazingly capable assets right now, especially as we look at this rather challenging world out there.
Mm-hmm.
But a fun fact, I often get asked, well, how long have you been underway? And there is one thing that limits how long you can stay underway in a submarine. We can make our own water. We got a nuclear reactor, so fuel really isn't an issue. We can make our own oxygen from water. We can remove all the impurities from the air, either by recirculating it, or we have some machines that do that. The one thing you can't make on a submarine is food. So you actually eventually have to get into port just to get some food.
Okay. That's simple enough. I love that.
And I assume you can't have any ounce of claustrophobia in order to go on board. I think I'd be so claustrophobic.
No, that's really not helpful. On the fast attacks, the smaller submarines, they actually walk on their food in the early part of the deployment, because a lot of it's in cans, and so you're literally walking on the cans on the floor, and you walk your way down to the deck.
Nice.
Or eat your way down to the deck, I guess is a better way to say it.
There you go. I like it.
Okay, next question. So, as obviously a very busy executive, what does downtime away from work look like for you? Do you have any hobbies, places you like to travel to, family that you like to spend time with? What does that look like for you? Or are you never truly away from work?
I would say, as a CEO, you're never fully unplugged. That's definitely true. We have 13 million members, and some of them like to communicate with me directly. Quite a few of them on a daily basis.
Wow.
I do have some hobbies. One of them is golf. I often say that I've played terrible golf on some of the best golf courses in the world. So
All right.
I get around and play golf when I can. Family is very important to me. I'm blessed that my mother-in-law lives with us. She just turned 91.
Oh,
We just
wow.
celebrated my
Nice.
mom's 90th birthday and my dad's 93. So
Holy smokes.
yeah, my
Oh,
mom and dad
awesome.
live in Denver, so I try and get to Denver at least every quarter if I can.
Oh,
Because
nice.
spend time with them. So family is also very important. Navy Federal is a big appreciation partner with the NHL, which aligns very well with our membership, our fan base does. And so I'm becoming a fan of hockey.
Yeah. You guys are aligned with the Flyers?
We do a lot with the Capitals, but frankly, we do a lot with just about all the teams. We usually have a spot on most of the games, and during the season, we often are promoting a local veteran
Oh, nice.
as part of each of the hockey games. The other thing I'm looking forward to is I am going to get to go to the Olympics this summer, so that'll be exciting.
Congratulations. You know what? Bill Cheney is heading over to Paris. We talked to him recently.
Yeah.
Yeah, have a wonderful time there. That'll be fantastic.
It's going to be crowded. I have a really close friend who's going. Her and her fiance are going with another couple, and I can't wait to hear about how crowded it is. It sounds like it's going to be a mess, but then it sounds like a great time to go. It should be an experience for sure.
All right, Dietrich, going back to your childhood, I would like to ask, what was the first album you ever bought or listened to a lot?
Okay, the first album I bought was Jethro Tull's Aqualung.
Aqualung.
Yeah, I was probably, I don't know, freshman, sophomore in high school.
Okay.
That was probably the first one.
That's a really good one. My dad loves that album.
Best.
I agree.
Yeah.
Totally agree. That was my dad's first, I believe, as well. Not comparing you two, in age or anything, but just saying. That's a wonderful pick.
All right, and final question here, Dietrich. What was the last movie you watched?
I recently watched, I know it came out much sooner, but I watched Wolfpack, Tom Hanks. I'm a Tom Hanks fan. I don't know that he's made too many bad movies. And that was, having been in command, just the totality of responsibility that I think that came through in the movie pretty well. I'd say that was a good one. I'm probably going to rewatch because we're celebrating the 80th anniversary of the D-Day landings back in earlier this month.
Sure.
So before I go to Paris, I'm going to watch Saving Private Ryan again, and I'm committed that we're going to find a way to sneak away for a day and go visit Normandy.
Very good.
Oh, that would be wonderful. Yeah. I remember seeing that in the theater with my grandfather, who was a World War II vet.
Oh, that had to have been great.
He was just crying, throughout the movie. Well, I hope you get to go. That would be wonderful to get to go be at the scene there, Normandy. Well, Dietrich, thank you so much for joining us today. It was a pleasure getting to know you a little bit. And as I said, we're just honored to have you here. Navy Federal, we follow you guys very closely, and we just really appreciate the time. Thank you.
Thank you both. It's been wonderful talking to you and getting a chance to talk about my team and the place I'm very passionate about being able to serve. It's been wonderful sharing a little time with you.
Us too. Thank you, Dietrich.
Thank you.
And for all of our listeners, please subscribe to Shared Accounts with CU Times anywhere you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, wherever. You know how this works. And if you want to rate us, we'd love your feedback. And also, for those of you with questions or comments, feel free to email me over at nchillingarian@cutimes.com, or you can email Michael at mogden@cutimes.com.
Also this month, exclusively on our executive briefing for subscribers only, we're taking a closer look at how credit unions are spending their community dollars and donation monies. It's an issue we've never tackled before, and it is very interesting. Subscribe to the executive briefing at cutimes.com/subscribe. Thank you so much to our producer, Zach Nyheisel. Thanks, Zach. Join us again next week for a new episode of Shared Accounts with CU Times. Until then, thanks for listening.